Today, we're diving into a really powerful idea from Professor Ahmed Rafique Akhtar's work, Muqqaddimat Ul Quran. It's this idea that for all our incredible progress, modern society is facing a deep spiritual crisis. And the solution? Well, it might just be found in what he calls a timeless map for humanity. And this question, it gets right to the heart of the author's entire thesis. I mean, think about it. We've mapped the human genome, we've sent rovers to Mars, but have we really mapped our own inner worlds? The book suggests that for all our amazing external achievements, many of us are experiencing a profound internal crisis. This quote just nails that paradox, doesn't it? It perfectly frames the central argument that our biggest problem isn't a lack of knowledge or power over the outside world, but a failure to truly understand and master our own selves. So to really unpack this idea, we're going to break it down into 5 parts. First, we'll define what this crisis of modernity actually is. Then we'll look at why the author believes modern thought has kind of led us to a dead end. We'll explore some warnings from history, dive deep into the human self, and finally, we'll get to his proposed solution, the Quran as a timeless map. Okay, let's jump right in with part 1, the crisis of modernity. The author paints a really stark picture of a world that is basically drowning in material wealth, but is absolutely starving from spiritual emptiness. This contrast is everything to the author's point of view. On the one hand, you see this incredible, undeniable progress in science, technology, and wealth. But just beneath that shiny surface, there's this deep, unsettling turmoil. It's like we've built a world of immense comfort that has somehow completely failed to produce contentment. So what does this crisis actually look like in our daily lives? Well, the author points to some clear symptoms: widespread anxiety, that frantic, endless chase for the next distraction, and a loss of any real moral certainty that leaves people feeling totally unanchored. And here's a crucial point he makes. Things like addiction aren't the root cause of our problems, they're the symptom, an escape from the much deeper void of a meaningless life. So this leads to a pretty critical question. If we're all so lost, where are we supposed to look for answers? And this is where the author's critique really sharpens, as he turns his focus to the West, arguing its dominant ways of thinking have basically led us straight into a dead end. The author draws this really sharp, clear line between philosophy and religion. He sees philosophy as this endless, stimulating, intellectual exercise of asking questions, but it never gives you the certainty you need to actually build a life on. Religion, on the other hand, he says, does the exact opposite. It provides a complete and definitive framework, giving us not just ideas to think about, but solid answers to live by. So, according to his analysis, where exactly does secular thought fall short? Well, he argues it's fantastic at mastering the how of the universe, how atoms work, how markets function, but it can never, ever provide a satisfying why. It gives us tons of information, but not wisdom. And without that firm foundation, he argues, it can easily spiral into nihilism, the belief that nothing really matters. And this quote is just such a powerful summary of his critique. He argues that influential thinkers like Bertrand Russell championed an intellect that was totally detached from any divine guidance. The result, in the author's view, is that our immense intelligence has created incredible tools for progress, sure, but also for unimaginable destruction because we lack a clear moral purpose to guide any of it. This critique of modern thought is made even stronger by how the author views history. He argues that history isn't just some boring collection of dates and facts. It's like a living laboratory, and it's full of warnings that, for some reason, we keep ignoring over and over and over again. The author sees this really clear, repeating cycle. It goes like this. Civilizations rise on the foundation of a strong moral and spiritual code. That discipline leads to prosperity and power. But then, almost inevitably, decay starts to set in. Self-indulgence replaces sacrifice, moral certainty gives way to confusion, and the whole society just rots from the inside out, leading to collapse. And this leads to a really striking analogy: history as a museum of fossils. He argues that when we look at the ruins of Rome, we're not just looking at ancient stones. We are, in fact, looking in a mirror. It's a timeless warning about what happens when a society gains the entire world, but loses its soul. So after diagnosing the external world, the author turns his focus inward. Part 4 is all about getting a handle on the human self, using the core Islamic concept of the nafs. So what is the nafs? It's a complex term, but you can kind of think of it as the psyche, the ego, the self. But here's the crucial part. The author defines it not as something static, but as a dynamic internal battlefield. This is the arena inside all of us where our highest ideals are constantly at war with our lowest desires. The author then lays out a journey of spiritual development that happens in 3 stages. It starts with the inciting self, which is just driven by raw impulse. Then you evolve to the self-aware self, where you become conscious of that inner struggle. This is the stage of conscience. And the final goal? That's the tranquil self, a state of profound inner peace where the self is no longer at war, but is in total harmony with a higher purpose. And that whole journey brings us to the final act of the author's argument, his proposed solution to the entire human predicament we've been talking about. And here we go. This is the book's central claim, that the Quran is way more than just a religious text. It's presented as a complete user manual for the human being, a detailed map for navigating the incredibly complex terrain of the self, of society, and of reality itself. This is where the entire argument just clicks into place. The author claims this framework perfectly diagnoses our core problem, that struggle of the nafs. He argues it provides the clear moral compass that philosophy lacks, it reveals our ultimate purpose in life, it shows us the path to achieving that tranquil self, and it gives definitive answers to life's biggest questions. And this map, the author argues very firmly, is not some historical artifact for one group of people or for one period in time. No, it's presented as a timeless, universal guide, designed to be just as relevant for someone living in a 21st century city as it was for someone in a 7th century desert. So, we end right where we began, with a question. The author presents a really compelling diagnosis and offers what he sees as a profound solution, a timeless map for the human soul. But his work leaves us with one final challenge. In a world that is changing faster than ever, how does a person even begin to read a map like that?